A black widower was about to lose everything, his home, his peace, and even his sense of belonging, when fate placed a shivering mother and her triplets in his path. Marcus Evans slammed his fist against the door of what was once his own house, while two large security guards pinned him by the arms. Just a few steps away, 3 small children clung to their mother, a pale woman with brown hair, who cried desperately for mercy. "Please, my babies can't stay out in this cold," Sarah pleaded, holding her 4-year-old triplets tightly against her chest. The November rain poured down without mercy, soaking the blanket wrapped around the little ones, who shook with cold. "That's my house," Marcus protested, his deep voice breaking with grief. At 45, his face still showed the raw pain of losing his wife, Elena, only 3 months earlier. "Who do you think you are to throw me out?" A short bailiff with thin mustache stepped forward, waving an official paper. "Mr. Evans, the bank has foreclosed on this property. It now belongs to Richmond Financial Group." Marcus felt his heart collapse again. First Elena, taken by a merciless cancer, and now his home, the last place where her memory lived. Yet, as he looked at the trembling children, another feeling rose inside him, an old instinct to protect the weak, something he thought had died with his wife. "Are you throwing her out too?" Marcus asked, pointing to Sarah. "She lived in the back apartment." The officer said coldly, "The entire property has been seized." Marcus's eyes met Sarah's for the first time. 2 strangers, but both victims of the same cruel hand. The triplets, Lily, Noah, and Emma, pressed tightly against their mother, their pale faces wet with tears and rain. "How long do we have?" Marcus asked firmly, forcing his voice to stay calm, though anger burned inside him. "1 hour," the bailiff replied. "After that, the doors will be sealed." At that moment, Marcus Evans, a cautious retired accountant and a grieving widower, made the most reckless decision of his life. "Come with me, all of you." Sarah blinked in confusion. "Go where?" "My brother-in-law owns a small cabin by the lake. It's not much, but it has a fireplace. Better than keeping the children out here in the storm." No one standing there could imagine what was really happening. Not the guards, not the bailiff, and certainly not the powerful Richmond Financial Group. They had just brought together 2 people whose lives were tied by dangerous secrets. Secrets that Elena Evans had uncovered before her death, and that Sarah Williams unknowingly carried inside a folder of old papers. As Marcus and Sarah rushed to gather belongings, he noticed something strange. Sarah moved through the house as though she already knew it. The drawers, the shelves, even the photograph of Elena on the mantel. She didn't look at it like a stranger would. She looked at it as if she carried memories of her own. And if you think this is just another story of unfair evictions and broken families, you're wrong. What About Unfold will make you question everything you believe about coincidence, justice, and the twisted paths fate uses to bring the right people together for revenge. The guards waited impatiently as 2 broken lives packed their things into worn suitcases, never guessing that on this cold November night an alliance was being formed. An alliance that would, in time, shake the rotten foundations of the financial empire that had just thrown them out. The rain hammered on the roof of Marcus's old Ford as he drove down the dark, winding road. In the back seat, the triplets slept under their wet blankets, while Sarah held a heavy folder against her chest. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "We barely know each other, and already we're running away together." Marcus's eyes stayed on the road, his voice bitter. "The real criminals are sitting in warm offices, drinking whiskey." "How long have you lived in the back apartment?" he asked. 3 years, Sarah said quietly. "Since my ex left me alone with the triplets." A flash of lightning lit up the car. The folder slipped from Sarah's lap, spilling papers across the seat. Marcus slowed down, his eyes catching a familiar logo, Richmond Financial, printed on a page marked confidential, Operation Clean Sweep. "Where did you get this?" Marcus asked sharply. Sarah's face went pale. I clean their offices. I keep papers with blank sides for the kids to draw on." Marcus grabbed the page, reading quickly. It was a plan to target minority neighborhoods and single parents through mass foreclosures, dated 8 months earlier, before Elena had gotten sick. "Do you have more like this?" he asked urgently. "A whole folder," Sarah admitted. "But why?" His phone buzzed. It was Jack, his brother-in-law. You're on the news. Richmond CEO is bragging about cleaning out undesirable elements from the community. Jack, Marcus said firmly, called David Reeves, the lawyer who fought the hospital for Elena, the one who sues corporations. Why? Jack asked. Because we just found the weapon he's been waiting for. 2 days later, in a small lakeside cabin, papers were spread across the table. David Reeves, a lawyer known for destroying corrupt companies, studied each page carefully. This isn't just foreclosure, he muttered, adjusting his glasses. He looked up. This is financial genocide, targeting blacks, Latinos, single mothers deliberately. Sarah gasped, almost spilling her coffee. It's not a coincidence, Marcus said, pointing at the dates. Elena was investigating this. She worked as a financial analyst before she got sick. David frowned, and her treatment was denied 3 times by her health insurance. Who owns that insurance company? Richmond Financial Group, Marcus answered, his tone cold. That night, Sarah found Marcus on the porch, staring out at the frozen lake. Do you think Elena's death wasn't just cancer? She asked softly. Marcus didn't turn. I don't know, he said, but I do know this. She was looking for evidence. And you showed up carrying the last missing pieces, Marcus whispered, his eyes blazing with resolve. So what do we do now? Sarah asked quietly. Marcus turned to her, his voice firm. We destroy them. Every last one. The very next morning, Richmond Financial Group held a press conference. Richard Sterling III, the arrogant CEO in his fine Italian suit, stood tall before the flashing cameras. His smile was smug, his tone full of pride. Today we celebrate the success of Operation Clean Sweep, he announced smoothly. We've revitalized neighborhoods, created new opportunities for serious investors, and removed those elements that stood in the way of progress. A reporter raised a hand. Mr. Sterling, what about claims of discrimination? Sterling laughed, shaking his head. Nonsense. We use strict financial criteria. If certain groups are more affected, maybe they should make smarter choices. Marcus slammed the TV remote down, shutting off the screen with a bang. His jaw tightened. Better choices? Elena worked 60 hours a week. David Reeves leaned back in his chair, his smile sharp. Marcus, do you know what's even better than suing a corrupt company? He paused, destroying it with his own evidence. Just then, Sarah pulled something from the bottom of the folder. A small black flash drive, labeled in neat handwriting. Esecure. Elena Evans. Marcus froze, his breath catching. Elena... When they opened the files, the truth spilled out like poison. Spreadsheets, emails, audio recordings. Elena had gathered everything before she died. Executives laughing as they spoke of cleaning up human trash. Records of offshore accounts. Trails of money laundering. One recording chilled the room. Sterling's voice, that Mexican analyst is digging too deep. If she keeps looking, she'll uncover the bones we buried. Maybe it's time to show her what happens when people don't know their place. Sarah covered her mouth, tears streaming down. They killed her. They killed your wife. Marcus stared at the screen, at Elena's face in an old photo. One file was labeled Operation Justice, How to Bring Down an Empire. Outside, snow was starting to melt, the season turning. Inside a humble cabin, 3 ordinary people held the weapons Elena had died for. Meanwhile, Sterling and his board toasted champagne in their skyscraper, blind to the storm about to hit them. And the most ironic part? The very documents that would destroy their empire had been pulled from a trash bin by a cleaning woman they considered worthless, the kind of undesirable they vowed to erase. But karma has a habit of choosing the most unlikely messengers to deliver justice. Still, gathering evidence was not enough. To bring down a billion-dollar empire, they needed more than files. They needed a trap so flawless that even the guilty couldn't escape. 2 weeks later, Richmond Financial's grand press conference was packed with reporters and cameras. Richard Sterling III strode the podium, flashing his trademark grin. He had no idea that a devastating digital virus had already entered every system of his company. A virus Elena herself had created, one Marcus now called the Truth. "Ladies and gentlemen," Sterling began, adjusting his tie, "we are here to celebrate the conclusion of Operation Clean Sweep and announce expansion into 5 more cities." At exactly 10:03 a.m., as planned, the giant screens behind him flickered. The corporate logo vanished. Instead, the face of Elena Evans appeared, her eyes calm but resolute. Her recorded voice filled the hall. "If you're watching this, it means I didn't survive to tell the story. But the truth always finds its way." Sterling's face drained of color. "Technical issues." "Shut it off," he barked. But the technicians, secretly working with David Reeves, kept the feed alive. On the screens, document after document appeared. Spreadsheets, memos, maps painted red, marking minority neighborhoods targeted for foreclosure. Elena's recorded narration explained each piece. Richmond Financial created an algorithm to identify communities of color, single mothers, and low-income families. They called it responsible urban cleansing. The journalists erupted. Cameras flashed. Pen scribbled furiously. Sterling tried to flee the stage, but found the doors discreetly locked. The evidence continued to roll out. Emails of board members plotting to remove undesirable elements. Projections of profits from forced gentrification. Then came the worst of it. Audio from the boardroom itself. Sterling's voice filled the hall. "That Mexican analyst has to go. She's digging too deep. If she uncovers the offshore accounts." Another voice replied, "Maybe an accident? Something discreet." Sterling again, "No, we'll do it through medicine. We have contacts in the hospital. Deny her treatment a few times. Nature will handle the rest." Gasps swept through the crowd. Sterling, now drenched in sweat, grabbed the microphone. "This is fake. Fabricated. AI deepfakes." But the next recording silenced him. A phone call. Sterling and the hospital director, calmly discussing the Elena Evans problem and how to stall her approvals until it was too late. At exactly 10:15, FBI agents entered the room. At their side was Sarah Williams, no longer quiet cleaner who had rescued papers from the trash, but key witness dressed in a sharp suit, carrying evidence that could topple giants. "Richard Sterling III," the lead agent declared, "you are under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud, systematic discrimination, money laundering, and conspiracy to commit murder." As they cuffed him, Sterling shouted, "You don't understand. It was just business, just maximizing profits." From the back of the hall, Marcus Evans stepped forward, calm but burning with quiet rage. His eyes locked on the man who had stolen his wife. "Business," Marcus repeated, his voice cutting through the silence. Elena was 42 years old. She loved gardening, classical music. She spent her Sundays teaching math to children who had nothing. She was my world. Sterling lowered his head, shame finally breaking his arrogance. "You called us undesirable," Marcus continued, his voice steady, almost sorrowful. "But in the end, it was people like us, a widow, a lawyer, and a cleaning woman saving scraps of paper for her kids, who destroyed your empire." Camera flashes lit the room as Sterling was dragged away in handcuffs. On the giant screens, Elena's video played on, now showing the faces of hundreds of families who had lost everything to Operation Clean Sweep. David Reeves stepped forward, his voice booming into the microphones. "What you've seen today is only the beginning. We have evidence connecting Richmond Financial to politicians, judges, and leaders in other corporations. The rot goes deeper than anyone imagined." Sarah held Marcus's hand tightly for strength and said, "This isn't just our victory. It belongs to every community that was silenced, pushed aside, and treated as if they didn't matter." That same afternoon, Richmond Financial stock collapsed by 87%. Within a single day, all of its assets were frozen. Their once proud headquarters, built to symbolize wealth and power, was now scheduled to be turned into a community center for families who'd been forced out of their homes. Far away in the cabin, Sarah's triplets, Lily, Noah, and Emma, watched the breaking news on television. They didn't fully understand everything, but they felt deep inside that something important had happened. Something that would not only shape their own lives, but also change the destiny of thousands of families. At 6 p.m., a spontaneous candlelight vigil formed outside the former Richmond financial offices. Hundreds gathered, many of them victims of Operation Clean Sweep. In the center stood a framed photo of Elena Evans surrounded by flowers. What no one realized in that moment was that this victory was not the end. It was just the beginning. In the files seized by the FBI, investigators uncovered links to other corporations, hidden networks, and more victims who still waited for justice. And Marcus Evans, once a grieving retired accountant, now stood at the front of a movement bigger than anything he had imagined. Justice, like water, always finds a path. And sometimes it flows to the most unexpected people, exposing secrets the powerful worked hard to bury. 6 months later, Richmond Financial's old headquarters looked unrecognizable. The place where executives once plotted how to erase undesirable elements had been reborn as a lively community center. Families came for financial literacy classes, legal aid, and art workshops for children. From Sterling's old office window, Marcus Evans, now appointed director of the center, watched the change unfold. Sarah Williams, working as a coordinator of social programs, had just organized the opening of a new children's wing named after Lena Evans, the woman whose bravery after death sparked it all. Carrying a stack of registration forms, Sarah smiled wryly. Funny, isn't it? A year ago, I was scrubbing these floors at midnight. Now, I'm helping to rebuild lives here. Laughter echoed down the halls as Sarah's triplets played with other children, all of them benefiting from a reparations fund created from Richmond's seized assets. The court had ruled that every family harmed by Operation Clean Sweep would not only regain their homes, but also receive compensation for their suffering. That afternoon, a federal prison van stopped in front of the center. Out stepped Richard Sterling III, shackled, wearing an orange jumpsuit. As part of his 25-year sentence, he was ordered to perform community service. 2 afternoons a week, serving meals to the very people he once called human trash. Sterling hesitated at the entrance. His once powerful face showed the weight of humiliation and disgrace. His elite friends had abandoned him. His fortune was gone. His family carried shame. Even his wife had divorced him and taken their children abroad. Marcus came down to meet him. Calmly, he said, "Welcome to the Elena Evans Community Center. Today, you'll be working in the kitchen. Donna Maria, who was evicted 2 years ago, will show you how to serve." Unable to meet Marcus's eyes, Sterling lowered his head. Inside the kitchen, Donna Maria, a 68-year-old Latina woman, handed him an apron. "Sir, with respect," she instructed firmly. "Look people in the eye. Smile. Ask if they want more." For hours, Sterling stood behind the counter, serving meal after meal to people who recognized his disgraced face from the news. Some muttered bitterly. Others simply stared. An elderly black woman stopped and studied him. "You took my house," she said quietly. "My grandchildren slept in shelters for 3 months." Sterling's voice shook. I'm sorry." "Sorry doesn't change the past," she replied. "But serving can change the future. Keep working." By 5 p.m., the center was full of life. David Reeves led a workshop on consumer rights. In the children's library, Sarah read stories to kids who listened with wide eyes. In the auditorium, former Richmond employees, now repentant, spoke on business ethics, sharing lessons from their downfall. In the kitchen, Marcus found Sterling scrubbing dishes, his once manicured hands raw from hot water. "You know," Marcus said softly, "Elena always believed people could change. She thought real justice wasn't just punishment, it was transformation." Sterling paused, his eyes wet with tears. "I destroyed so many lives." "Yes," Marcus replied, "but now you have a chance to help rebuild them. Use it well." That night, after the center closed, Marcus and Sarah walked to Elena's memorial in the garden. Fresh flowers lay there, placed daily by people who owed her their second chance. "She saved us all," Sarah whispered, adjusting a bouquet of daisies. "Even after she was gone." Marcus squeezed her hand. "And she taught us something greater. That true revenge isn't about destroying those who hurt us. It's about creating something so beautiful that their evil becomes meaningless." A year later, the Richmond case became a landmark in restorative justice. Documentaries were produced. New laws were passed. Corporations across America reviewed their foreclosure practices. Elena's small flash drive had ignited a movement that shook the financial world. Even Sterling was no longer the same man. After 2 years of service, he had been transformed by the very community he once tried to crush. On his last day before return to prison, he approached Marcus quietly. "I know I can never undo the damage," Sterling said, "but I want you to know—" Elena was right about everything. That same day, Sarah received an official letter. The FBI had uncovered to the Richmond files an even bigger web of corruption. Both she and Marcus were invited to lead a new national task force against financial discrimination. Laughing in disbelief, she showed Marcus the letter. From cleaning lady to federal task force leader. Who would have guessed? Elena would have, Marcus answered with his first true smile since her passing. She always saw the extraordinary in ordinary people. And so, what began as tragedy and injustice grew into a powerful movement for change. Marcus and Sarah didn't just endure the storm. They turned into rain that nurtured new beginnings for thousands. The greatest irony? Sterling's plan to clean up society ended up cleaning out the very corruption he stood for. Justice, it seems, has a strange sense of humor. And as Elena always said, the truth is like water. It always finds a way.